All right, we're rolling. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Nick and Joe podcast. How have you been, Nick?
I've been pretty good, actually. All considering, I've had a kind of rough week.
You
but
have? Yeah.
Yeah. We lost our doggo of 17 years last week, and that's been really rough. But we had her for 17 years, and it was her time.
Yeah.
It's
still
as good
rough.
as it could have been.
It's still rough, though, isn't it? It's like, and I think, do you know, because like, I don't know. That's what I mean. I've never actually had my own. Oh, hang on. I've never actually had my own dog, and I don't know
Oh,
if
really?
I don't know if I could, because it's bad enough. It's bad enough when a cat dies, and then the doggo's got more personality, and it's like, oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I'd love it, but then you got to say goodbye one day, and it's like, oh. And I've seen Marley and Me, and I
couldn't watch it. I didn't watch Marley and Me because I knew that's a bad idea. Don't watch it. Yeah, well, I cry during animated movies, so like Marley and Me was like, that's all.
I was a wreck after watching. That. Even though at the time I was completely 100% stable, I was just a wreck after watching that film. So I was like, I don't think I can have a dog because, yeah. But
yeah, it's hard. But like, I mean, honestly, when you see them, because like I didn't think I could do it, and then when you see them hurting, you're like, okay, like there's worse things than letting go. So I think that's why I'm kind of okay with it. Is 17 good years, and seeing her hurting was way worse than anything else I imagined.
So,
and we have kind of a fun announcement too. I announced it on stream already, but I mean, we can announce it on the podcast too. But we got Harvey, a new friend, he's having a rough time. So like I have down here, she's tired. So we have
new doggo,
another doggo. Yeah. So this is Evie. She's super sleepy, but so, we decided to take Mocha's passing and do something good with it. So give another dog a good life like Mocha had. So she's knocked out. All right, I'll put you back. But so yeah, I'm doing well, all things considered. So, and then I am going to do a charity stream to honor Mocha. That's why I was asking if you had Just Dance.
Oh, I see. No, I don't have it.
I probably shouldn't have it either.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying that at all. Hey, look, if that's what you and Snack Daddy do in your spare time, then that's what you and Snack Daddy do in your spare time. It's none of my business.
It's not. That's the problem. It's going to be horrific. But like, so I came up with the idea of dancing for doggos.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
I have a goal. It's a really big goal. I don't think I'm going to reach it, but I have a goal. And then every certain amount, like I have milestones. And then if I hit a milestone, I do a dance.
Nice.
I'm trash at it. I'm really bad. I played a little bit today before the podcast. I mean, I'm so bad and get winded a little bit too easily. But we'll give it a shot. If anything, maybe more people will come to watch me embarrass myself. So
that's the idea. That's the idea, isn't it? I mean, I was actually pretty good on the dance mat back in the day. I haven't played any. Yeah, I was okay. It was a friend's, like my best friend's little sister had a dance mat, and I think we played it more than she did. I don't really know why. We definitely didn't tell anybody at school. But I haven't played any of the Just Dance, any of the Just Dance games.
Yeah, I wish I had a dance mat. We actually did play at school, interestingly enough. You don't want to tell people, but I joined the anime club. So we played DDR.
That sounds like the coolest club in school.
It was so cool. And honestly, like I was like the loser of the club too. Not that I was like the loser of the club, but like I had no friends. I was really shy. So like I was the shyest of the anime club. So you can only imagine how shy that was. So it was an experience. It was supposed to like take me out of my shell, but it didn't. I actually did not play DDR until years and years and years later because I like didn't want to play DDR in front of everyone. So and then I played it at an arcade in front of everyone. So didn't go very well either. But it was fun. I liked it. I'd love to have one at home.
Well, one of the proper arcade machines, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even just a mat, like anything. DDR is really cool. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks so, but I like it. It's pretty neat.
Can we talk about Dr. Disrespect still not being around?
Okay, so I almost wrote a tweet and then I didn't, but I was talking to Snack Daddy and we're like convinced we're gonna get the recipe for KFC chicken before we find out why Dr. Disrespect was banned. Like it's that secretive. Like that shit is on lockdown, like in a vault. Coca-Cola secret recipe would be easier to get. It's insane.
I would love it if just one day he reappeared back on Twitch like main page and it was just some elaborate like hoax and PR thing and it's like he's back, but not only is he back, it's like co-streaming with Ninja. No, I mean that wouldn't happen, but like, you know, I would love that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure he is banned, but
yeah.
It's just so strange. I don't understand. There are so many people in a stream that size, there are so many people involved, and there are so many people involved in Twitch, and still nobody knows. I'm just like, how can nobody know still? Yeah. Everything gets leaked nowadays. Pretty much everything.
It really is incredible. I mean, he's such a big streamer and nothing's been leaked. And like there's theories, and honestly, I don't know if any of them have any salt to them, but I don't know. I will say it does seem very coincidental that it was happening at the same time that they were kind of like doing mass bans for sexual assault.
Yes.
And like they had to have recognized that, right? Like when banning them, they had to have been like, oh, okay, well, it's during the same time, even if it wasn't for sexual assault. I mean, you'd think they'd know like, okay, well, banning him right now is going to look bad. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't have a great relationship with him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there's some sort of, I mean, we don't know, but like, was there some sort of case and like it was agreed that if he stopped streaming or whatever, like nothing would come out and maybe legal documents were signed and somebody was paid. I don't know. I mean, you hope not, but you really never know. So yeah. And Ninja is moving to YouTube.
Yeah, I was actually hoping we'd talk about that because Harris Heller released a video on like, should you move to YouTube? Because of course that's everyone's first thought. And that was even one of my thoughts, right? Is like, okay, well, Twitch has a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people are kind of unhappy with the environment right now, you know, and there are a few good points, right? Like there are a lot more people on YouTube. Pretty much everyone has a YouTube account.
Yeah.
But Harris Heller kind of went back and forth with, you know, should you, shouldn't you, the pros and the cons. And it's really interesting. And honestly, like I'm going to stick with Twitch for now, but it's something that, you know, I mean, I did talk to Snack Daddy and he was like, because he has a YouTube account, who doesn't? He was like, I don't even know how to find live stuff.
No.
So it's like, there's so much potential there, but it does kind of feel like it's hidden. So I don't know. I'm keeping my eye on it for sure.
Yeah. So funnily enough, because I'm still waiting on the return of my second partner application.
Yeah.
But if I want to stream something different or something at a different time, because I need to keep those numbers consistent, if I need to apply him, I decided to do a stream on YouTube last Sunday.
Oh, cool.
So I set it all up, pretty straightforward. The interface is fine. The only thing is, and I like it's linked to my Discord anyway, so a load of people came in that obviously already knew, but there wasn't a single new person.
Yeah.
And then I like Snack Daddy, I'm the same. I don't even know how you would find
yeah.
I don't even know how you would find live streamers on there. I've no idea. Unless you're already subbed to them.
Yeah.
There's nowhere. I don't think. I mean, I've not had a really good look, but discovery-wise from that angle, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. But if they did a page like Twitch where you could find new people, then I'm sure like they could change things.
Certainly. Yeah, especially like Twitch doesn't have good discoverability either, right? Like Twitch is lacking in that. Like you still can't search by like the number of viewers in a stream to find bigger or smaller streamers. Or I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's not the greatest. search. So, I mean, if YouTube did increase discoverability, if YouTube offered all the things that people want from Twitch that aren't offered yet, that could look scary for Twitch, I think, especially since, I mean, you already have Ninja on there. And with the current climate of Twitch and everything that's going on, I mean, I think that could look really scary for them.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I did notice that YouTube does better than Twitch that I like is they allow you to do thumbnails.
For your live streams.
At least from what I saw.
Yeah. So
I've seen people with really cool thumbnails.
Yeah, so I didn't realize, but I did one after because people were watching it after because it saves straight into your videos, and I was like, well, I better put a thumbnail on it and make sure people know that this is a live stream, not like a properly recorded video. It's weird though because like I think I need about 200 more subs on there, which is followers, to be able to monetize it, and then you have to have so many hours watched. But unlike and then your partner, that's it. That's it. As far as there's no more, there's no like next like freaking next level. Well, there is a kind of next level when you've got X amount of subscribers, but it's like it doesn't really make a difference to how you're pushed or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the criteria is the criteria, unlike Twitch partner, which is obviously. You hit the criteria, but then you still might not get it.
Yeah. Something else I'm curious about is Twitch does not have a good reputation for its like help department. No. Like if you reach out and you have an issue and you need help, whether you're unjustly banned or you need people banned in your community for making death threats or whatever, they don't have a good record of that. A lot of people are pretty pissed about that. And I'm curious if YouTube does that better. And that's why I say I think YouTube could be scary for Twitch, because there are things that Twitch is doing that a lot of people aren't happy with. So if YouTube got it right, if YouTube did better discoverability, if they really like worked hard on that live platform, I mean, I think that could actually be finally a contender, like a legit contender with Twitch. Whereas like, we weren't really worried about Mixer and now
exactly. And there's Facebook gaming now, obviously, as well.
Yeah, which I don't think will be popular.
I can't see it. I mean, you don't know, but they just don't have the clout. I mean, YouTube's owned by Google, right? So
yeah. And when I think Facebook, I think what was that gardening game back in the day? Farmville. Yeah, like when I think Facebook gaming, I'm like hardcore Farmville, 24-hour Farmville stream. Like I don't think of like anything neat.
Farmville was great. Farmville was fantastic for about 6 weeks, and then everyone just dropped it. That was
unless you're my mom.
All right.
Play for a hot minute.
Well, you need to get her a Switch for Christmas with Farming Simulator 2019.
Yeah, she needs Stardew.
Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley. Yeah, maybe. I wonder though now if, because as we know, and partner applications, and most people who are partner, they had to apply 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I wonder now if Twitch will be like, well, hey, actually, maybe we shouldn't be so picky because people could get tempted to move on, and they see Ninja do it.
Yeah.
And it surprises me that Twitch. I don't know if Twitch tried to make a deal with Ninja. I don't know, but
yeah. You know, it's something that I feel like YouTube doesn't do that I'd like to see. And I don't know if they don't do it. I just didn't see it because I did drop in a Ninja stream. I didn't see that you had the option for your own emotes, or if you do, then he didn't upload any. Because you've streamed there. Did you have an option to upload emotes in any way?
Not as I am, but I do know that you can have emotes. Yes.
Okay.
I only know. I only know from watching some of the YouTubers that have done live streams on there, and they have emotes. They do have emotes.
How many slots do you get?
I don't know, but the basic emotes, people don't. Well, my chat didn't like them. They're like, these are trash.
Yeah, I looked at them. They're
trash. They're trash. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, I think you're right though. What you say about the help and that kind of thing. YouTube is far more evolved, but also they are very hot on anything that's against TOS. Videos are taken down rapidly. Like It doesn't matter whether they're big or small. They're all over that. So I'd imagine, there's going to be a lot more staff for help. But it's kind of baffling because you think Twitch are making so much money, and they're owned by Amazon as well. But they're already making like, it's not been that many years for such a company of that size to be turning profit like they are. I mean, that's massive. Yeah. You know, some companies go 10, 15. Look at Spotify. I think Spotify's still not making a profit after 10 years. So they're making a lot of money already. Why are you not getting people in who are taking a grip of this and acting and doing things quicker? Why did it take all of Twitch for you to start acting on these pedophiles and groomers and all that sort of stuff?
That does bother me. It feels like a little bit like, I don't know. It feels, I mean, I won't name any corporations, but we all know greedy corporations. Like there are some that come to mind, and it sucks. And that's why I say, like, if YouTube does it right, they could be a contender, because like Twitch is starting to form that name for themselves, unfortunately. I mean, the fact that you can't really get help, that people can make death threats to you and nothing happens, that people can still make usernames with naughty words in them, but then you get banned if like something ridiculous. Happens on your stream that you can't control. Like, I mean, the list goes on, right? There are so many things. And the fact that you message them, nobody gets back to you, like, you're making a ton of money, and you're making a ton of money off of streamers. So you really need to be there for your streamers. You need to give them more tools. You need to help them get more discoverability in any way that you can. Because I really do think, like, the more discoverable the streamers are, the more profit Twitch is going to make. When you have people finding the communities they feel like they fit in, they're probably going to spend more money. So I think they need to do better. Honestly, I think they're making so much profit off of people and not protecting those same people or helping those same people. That's shitty, you know. And I don't want to speak for Twitch as a whole, but it does very much feel that way. So I'm hoping to see that change. Also, I did find the emote thing. They aren't clear, because one of the things I've complained about is that as an affiliate, you can only have up to 5 emotes. And in order to get more than that, you literally have to hit partner, which is really hard. Yeah. So, and most people won't. So, but on YouTube, it says you get access to 1 or more exclusive custom emoji. I don't know what that means.
I think on Twitch, I think the amount of streamers that are partners is something like 0.5%.
Yeah. It's really.
Yeah. Only 3% are affiliate. So like, it just baffles. The most annoying thing about partners, and obviously I'm going through the process at the minute, I don't doubt that it will happen, because I keep maintaining the numbers. And what they said after the first time I applied was, we can see everything's good. We just want you to hold those numbers for a bit longer, because it was obviously the first time that I'd hit that. But then what's the point in saying that you've got to hit that? Why don't you just then say you need to average 100, or and then when you hit it, you've got it, and that's it. When you've hit 100 average over and it's like, well, I don't know what'll happen. Like, it's been 3 weeks tomorrow, and they took 3.5 weeks to get back last time. I don't know what they can say if I don't, because I've held the numbers, and I'm like at 97 average views. That's over 20. That's over 20 higher than what they asked for. Yeah. And they told me everything was fine. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still made me apply again, but I don't really know what they'd say after saying. Yeah. So we'll see. But it just seems so strange that they would, like, if you've got those numbers, I mean, the only thing I would say is, like, maybe you do some investigation, like, if they've got all those numbers but absolutely nobody chats, and, you know, they ask the question if they got a load of people on a load of, you know, where are they watching from and all that kind of thing. Yeah, you could get fraudsters, of course, but apart from that, I don't understand. Like, if you get in the views you asked for, and they're following, and the streamer's following TOS, well, the viewers are viewing them, aren't they? So, like, why wouldn't they want to make them part of the partner program? Because they're obviously they've obviously grown and been popular enough, you know, because if people didn't want to watch them, they wouldn't. It seems very odd. Just a very, very strange way of doing of doing things. Yeah. I also noticed that the actual application and who you get a reply from is not Twitch itself. It's like a third party. It's a third party company that does it. Yeah, which because I got the email back and it went to junk. The first time I missed it, like 2 days. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I looked on the thing and it said I could apply again, and I was like, "What? I haven't had an email," and it was in the junk, and it wasn't from Twitch. It was from some like almost like a recruitment company or something like that. So it's some third party that's actually evaluating whether you fit the criteria or not.
Yeah.
Which
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, but like, what is the criteria? What are they told? Why don't you just tell us what the criteria is?
Yeah. Well, so my original thought was like that they don't just want numbers. They want to make sure that the people that they're approving fit in with their overall culture and their brand and what they want to portray to people. But two things. One, seeing that they're using a third party kind of makes that unsure. And two, as we've seen, some of their partners are not great, right? Like,
exactly.
Kind of people. Which of course you can't know everything about anyone. Like maybe they didn't know that stuff. But it is a little bit strange. It does make you wonder what exactly they're looking for and why they are denying people and making people apply multiple times. It is really weird. It does feel a little bit non-transparent, which I think wouldn't be so bad if we already weren't questioning so many different things about Twitch right now as a whole, right? Like everyone on Twitch is kind of questioning all of these things about this company. And then you add the inability to be transparent about the partner process, and that just doesn't help with their image. So
I think the worst thing for me about the experiences is Twitch always say it's about community, and I agree.
Yeah.
But you know, whilst you're going around this process and while you have to keep reapplying, you have to worry about the numbers. You have to worry about the numbers. And I hate that. Because I don't want to be worried about what I'm playing and whether it's going to have 20 less people in. I don't, but I'm forced to at the minute. Until it gets accepted, I'm forced to. So it's like it kind of contradicts what they say completely when they say it. They talk about community all the time. Yeah. And then
I mean, not only that. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, and then the thing is, you don't like once you hit that criteria, you don't have to keep hitting it. You can just press apply again. Yeah. But I can't see that if you weren't over the numbers they're asking for that you get it. There's no more path to partner to fill in. Like it's just complete and you can click apply. I also wonder because I've seen there's a lot of people who've come over from YouTube because they have X thousand subs or whatever, and they are not doing great like on Twitch in comparison. And I wonder what the criteria is for them coming over from you, like what sort of numbers they have to have, or because it's obviously if you come over from YouTube and you're primarily just making videos, you don't. It's not really a community, is it? Because I mean, you will get people in the comments and stuff if you're popular, but it's not really the same, is it? You don't. They're not people chatting that get to know each other.
Yeah, and it's not live, which is very different for the person who's recording.
And most of the people, apart from a few, most of the people I know who've come over from their popularity their numbers on YouTube are not that great. Not all of them, but and it kind of feels like, you know, you sweat on Twitch. Like I've been sweating on Twitch for like 15 months or whatever it is. And then somebody who's been on YouTube for just as a casual for years and years and years, but back in the day it was so much easier to get subs on there, and very few people were doing it, and they just come over and they're not actually that good, but they get given their checkmark and partner, and then they've got the tools to encourage people to their stream because if they sub, they've got more emotes. The people know that the stream is getting more money for the sub and stuff like that. It's just the whole process is very strange, like really strange.
Yeah.
Apparently Mixer, even though Mixer's was lower, you needed like 50 average, but apparently Mixer were the same with like turning people down to be part of their partner program, and they didn't let all their partners carry their partnership status over to Facebook Gaming.
Oh wow.
Which, yeah, I was like, that's weird, because they were like, "Oh, come over to Facebook Gaming." Weird. Well, if they were partnered on Mixer, and then they're like, but now that they didn't let them carry. A lot of them did, but a lot of them didn't.
Yeah, I'd be bouncing to YouTube in that case. I probably would have been like, peace, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I do think, you're talking about community and how Twitch wants to encourage community. But like, that's a good point. The fact that to apply for partner, you do need an average of 75. The thing is, like, the larger the community, the harder it is to interact, right? Like,
of course, yeah.
Around 100 isn't so bad, but then you have people with like thousands, like that chat. You don't really have a community.
There's no chat.
Yeah. And then not only that, but there are people like I might not ever want to apply for partner. I mean, I probably would, but really my biggest goal would be one, more emotes, because like when you do have a community, you want to be able to use fun inside jokes and stuff. So the fact that they only give affiliates 5 emotes is kind of crummy. In my opinion, I feel like everyone should have more emotes. Because that encourages more community for affiliates, for everyone, for all of Twitch. The more emotes we get, the more community it encourages. And I do think they should maybe encourage more smaller communities. They have that small community section on their front page, but it seems like they really are incentivizing having as many people as possible, which doesn't really align with that snug, nice community feel. It feels more big corporation to me. Not only that, but then people who are partners make more money, so it's like you kind of have to, if you want to make this a career, you're kind of forced into having a bigger community and applying for that over and over again, when maybe you wanted a small community because your community is really good and it's profitable and things are great and you're living comfortably and you're happy, So it's like mixed messages, I guess. Like on one hand, it's like, oh, community, yay. And then money, right? And they definitely seem more money driven, which their message is community. So there's a little bit of a dissonance there, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really odd. Like, what I found is like there's occasions now where I don't keep up so well with chat, but then I think more, to be fair, there are more people, like pretty much everyone that used to come in used to talk, pretty much all of them, whereas now there's a lot of people lurking, which is like, obviously, get as many people in. So it's still not too bad at the minute, but when I am hitting like 120, 130, sometimes it is like a bit, and I know that I lost some people because of that. Yeah. But it's like, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I want to grow.
It is, very much.
I want to grow and make sure that I can carry on doing this for a living. So, like, I don't have a choice but to grow if it's what I want to do.
Exactly.
But then, but on the flip side of that, some of the problems I've had, because we're going to talk about mods a little bit, that was the other thing, wasn't it? I had a problem with some of my mods becoming a bit of a clique, and that can be a fine line. That can be a really fine line between people coming in and feeling like it's a nice community, or people coming in saying, yeah, it's a nice community amongst themselves. Yeah. The update on that is that I've specifically picked some new mods, and it's honestly so refreshing and fantastic. It's like they are so good and interactive, but it just feels good again. It just feels like I feel like it should do. But the community thing's so important. But I think, and I didn't think about this, I just thought, we got this community talking to each other and that. And I was perhaps a bit naive with how cliquey it got to an extent. And I'm kind of glad the way things have panned out, because if it becomes, from what I see as well, if it becomes too clicky, you want the community to be close.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where mods are talking to themselves all the time amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And we actually me and Nick actually tried to record a video before, which it didn't go right. And we had a few technical problems. And but we actually said this before, like, I don't encourage, unless it's necessary, like about somebody who's been an arsehole or whatever, like, to not be talking in the mod chat, like away from the rest of the community.
Absolutely.
But you're pretty careful with picking mods, right, Nick?
So I actually don't have a lot of mods, to be completely honest. Yeah, I do plan on being more careful, and I still need to write rules out with everything kind of going on in real life. I have it written, not so much rules as guidelines. So the thing that I realize is my mods, they can't read minds, which but like it takes a little lesson to think about that, so my mods can't read my minds. Nobody's mods can. And in order for them to know what you want in your channel, you have to give them more direction. Otherwise, they'll do what they would want in their channel, because that's all they can go off of, right? Oh, well, that's bad. I wouldn't allow that. I don't think that's right. But it's like, maybe, you feel it's okay. People's lines are different, and what they can tolerate is different, and what they're okay with is different. So I've learned that that's a big thing. And I have had issues as well so my mods haven't been clicky, which is really, really good. But I did have one mod who created like a mod hangout, and I deleted it. I was like, no, if we're hanging out, like, I want you guys to be hanging out with everyone.
Yeah.
Like, of course we have a mod room where we can talk about like mod stuff, like someone in band but like, I didn't want a mod hangout. It's a community hangout. I don't want a hierarchy. I mean, if we did a hierarchy, I'm the streamer, right? So I'm up here, but like, I hang out with everyone else, because that's what I want, a community of everyone. I don't want some sort of like streamer caste system. So I did delete that, and I do plan on moving forward. Like, I'm at a point where I'm okay with the mods that I have. Snack Daddy can always mod. I'm happy to mod myself as well. But moving forward, I do want to maybe find people who maybe have the same desire or values as me. For example, one of my mods was a little bit more reserved as a person than me and wasn't okay with certain content. But my stream is adult, which sounds horrible. Not OnlyFans or anything. It's nothing like that. It's everywhere. Snack Daddy just walks in the room naked all the time. But yeah, their boundaries were definitely different from mine. And I feel like if I had been upfront and been like, well, this is what I'm okay with, and this is what I'm not, they might have been like, okay, this isn't the channel I want to mod for. My values and my tolerances are different. So
it's difficult to know when you start, though, isn't it? It's difficult to know when you start. You don't think about those things. You just think, oh, this person's cool. I don't have any mods.
Exactly.
I will make you a mod, and then you end up making your friends or the people who come back often, who you really like, mods, without really having a discussion about what you want or what they want as a person, what they would like to see. And so, sometimes, like, I had someone delete an image that I was okay with on my Discord. I've had someone delete a message saying that it wasn't safe for children. And then I had to say, 18 plus.
Yeah, I'm an 18 plus, so I don't care if it's safe for children. They shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like, if you're here, you go to bed. You leave. So yeah, and it wasn't that they were doing anything wrong. And like, in some channels that would have been great, but that's not what I wanted for my channel. So I'm realizing that you do need to give more directive and more, I guess, of an opening into your mind so that they know what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and our message, I guess, is be careful. Make some ground rules so that there's no awkward conversations to be had at any time.
What you want.
Yeah, I think the ground rules, I think, and the expectation is probably the most important. I mean, I personally haven't had too much problem with that, with what was okay and not okay. I mean, there's things that I might disagree on occasionally, where they might have timed someone out and maybe I thought it was a bit overzealous, or maybe I thought somebody should. But I mean, that's only minor stuff, not like deleting and like stuff that's okay. And
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had much of a problem with that. The issue I had was mods becoming a clique.
Yeah. I think that, mods are supposed to be an extension of you in a way. Like, they're not you, but they're supposed to be an extension of you, and they're going to make some mistakes. They aren't perfect. They aren't you. But the more you can align your mod with yourself, whether your values are to be more family friendly or to be more adult or to be more open or more conservative, or maybe, you don't want to be cliquey, you want everyone to hang out together. Like, those values are important that they extend to your mods too. Like, your mods really should be as much of an extension of you as possible, so that your whole channel kind of sings of you, right?
Yeah.
Sounds cheesy, but
no, absolutely. No, I wholeheartedly agree. So over the last few weeks, the Twitter storm does seem to have calmed down significantly with regards to everything. Obviously, on the previous podcast, we spoke about Black Lives Matter, BLM movement, and all the oppression and all that sort of thing. And that sort of, on the podcast we tried to record before, that sort of evolved into the sex and gender issue. Now, my main concern with this, sex, gender, and of course the the grooming and the assault and the harassment and the sexual harassment. Now, I think for me, and everyone will have seen that. Everyone listening will have seen it probably to some extent if they've been on social media. Yeah. Now, my biggest issue is, and we've spoken about, or we spoke about before, people who were naming and shaming people on Twitter without evidence. And I covered it in a video. Now, since then, there has been quite a few cases where there's a couple of people who've owned up to lying, which is the worst thing, because it does no favors whatsoever to real victims. First and foremost, that's the biggest issue with that. The biggest issue is obviously that they were trying to turn somebody's life upside down. And then the other big issue was that there was a load of people who just went and retweeted it and basically were trying to cancel them for whatever when it didn't happen. And now their argument is, I'm more comfortable with being wrong about, being wrong about the victim lying, than not saying anything about potential accused. And it's funny because they're a lot quieter now, and it makes me wonder whether they actually do think about the problem with what they're saying. When they do that, when they say, well, as soon as I hear that somebody's been a victim, I'm getting my pitchfork and we're going to go and cancel this person. And again, it completely averts from the victim, actually, and the support that they probably need. First and foremost, what do they actually, what does the victim actually need at that time? They're going to need somebody to help and support them and understand. They might not want everybody to, they might have just been telling their story to get it out. They don't necessarily want it going viral, although obviously that's not the brightest idea if you are doing it on Twitter. But I think I can begin to understand why somebody wants to do that to get it out there.
Yeah.
But a lot of these victims have said, I'm not trying to cancel this person.
Yeah.
I just want people to be aware. And I think those people have done it the best, because it's not like saying, you shouldn't go near this person. It's like, just be aware.
Yeah.
And then if people have got that in the back of their mind, and then actually they meet that person and they get to know them well and they end up trusting them, then that's fair enough. But if they get themselves in a situation where it's a little dodgy, they can think, well, hang on, I've been warned about this. Rather than just saying, this person's done this, we need to cancel them. Everybody, everybody unsub. Make sure you get straight on on their Twitch and bombard them with and so you told me about Alinity, right? The streamer with the cat, streamer who threw the cat. I actually, because she'd been having obviously when all this has come back up, all the other stuff comes back up, like about the animal abuse. It brings everything back up. I actually happened to click on a stream just out of curiosity because she's been on like the front pages quite a lot or high in recommendation. And she happened to have a cat. One of her cats come up onto the arm of her thing, and she didn't pick her up, but she was like, oh, she moved her onto the thing. As soon as that cat's there is like message deleted in the chat, because the mods are like having to go bang 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 because people are there. It's follower only chat. People are still like saying, you know, going for her, like it's kind of weird. It like, because I don't know how many of those people actually believed that she really wanted to really hurt the cat. Like, yeah,
that's the thing. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, well, it's animal abuse and stuff. I really don't think she wanted to hurt the cat.
No.
I mean, yeah, maybe she did something a little bit dumb, but we've all done something dumb. And it could have hurt the cat. It was a really bad thing to do. But I mean, it sounds like she's sorry. And I really don't think she intended to hurt the cat. I mean, we've all heard that cats land on all four. They really do. Like,
they do.
They're pretty freaking agile. So I don't think it was her intention. I don't think she expected to get the cat hurt. I don't think it was malicious. I think she made a dumb choice and is sorry for it, you know. And I know the other big one was her giving a little bit of vodka to her cats. Yeah. Which, you shouldn't do. But like, again, I just think it wasn't very smart. I think it was just
I think that for me was worse. But all that people seem to talk about is the cat throwing. But I mean, that, you know, 9,999 times out of 10,000 the cat would be absolutely fine, and probably the other one is they might sprain something or be bruised. Like I just it wasn't good, and you don't like to see it.
No, of course
you don't like to see it. But the vodka thing was, for me, was worse because it's not just really a spare of the moment thing either. It's not a spare of the moment thing. You have time to think about that. But I don't know, was she drinking as well? Was she drinking herself at that time?
That's the thing. She drank a bit of vodka and then like kissed the cat and gave a little bit of vodka to the cat, kind of like, which like I don't think her intention, it was like the tiniest bit of vodka. You shouldn't do it, but like
it wasn't gonna hurt the cat. You know that the cat's not gonna get hurt.
Yeah,
so do you think that most people who are trying to troll know that actually deep down they actually think that?
I don't know. Like, I think there are a lot of people who are really passionate about animals. I'm one as well, and I do think people are genuinely concerned. And I don't watch her enough to know like intent or how she usually is or who she is as a person or anything like that. I do tend to lean on the side of caution in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, but I do think there are people out there who are very upset about it. But I don't know. I guess
some of them are, without doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think most of these trolls, the majority of them, there can't be that many people who are actually that upset about it? Because I think most people,
I honestly don't know.
Most people would agree she's not actually going around kicking cats. You know, and people do that. People do that. I mean, it's sick. Like, and really do like really torture animals. Like you've seen it on social media, and it's absolutely vile. Like, and I just feel like I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. This need for trolling and this need for like not letting people move on.
Yeah,
more importantly,
I hate that you can't just let people be better. That's shitty.
Exactly. Yeah,
not only are you not letting people be better, but if you can't let somebody else be better, that means you can't, like, you don't believe people can be better.
Yeah, exactly.
And think about how harmful not only that is to like other people, but to yourself as well. If I say, hey, Joe can't be better, I can't let him move on from this, he can't be better, he's still the same person, that's really saying that people can't be better, which includes me.
Yeah.
So like there are so many people out there who are like, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that and I've grown, and like they don't sit there and dwell on their own things. They're like, I'm not that person anymore. They give themselves so much credit and let their past mistakes go, and then sit there and hound other people. And that's so shitty. That's so shitty.
Really
I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, everyone can be better. You can be better. I can be better. Everyone can get better. Like, that's okay. But yeah, it pisses me off because you have people out there who are like advocating for these things, but really they're just being a fucking asshole. Like, they're not being accepting. They're not helping. They're not educating. They're just being angry. I hate that.
Almost every culture in the world officially accepts. So for instance, if you go to jail and you're supposed to get rehabilitated, like, that's it. I mean, in many places it's not done right, in my opinion, but that's the idea. Definitely. That's what's supposed to happen. But in this sort of social world now, it's almost like there's no bars hold. You can say what you want about these people, and you can never let them get on if that's what you want. And I guess there's a reason, right, that when we do have like real trials in court, there is a judge there that can just dismiss stuff that's garbage, or that is trained by law and is reasonable. There's a reason that they have the judge there. They don't make ultimately, in serious cases, they will not make the decisions, but apart from maybe sentencing, but they have to be there. And this is what we're missing, I think, from all the platforms, is it's so vague about how you treat others, like in the terms of service of all social medias. You like, I'm one for free speech completely, but these people are specifically like targeting streamers and getting away with it, like, over and over and over again. And I kind of like, I accept that it's probably like part of the job, but it shouldn't have to be that way. And if you're a company and you've got employees at work, say you've got a tangible physical workplace, whose responsibility is your workers' safety? It's the employers. It's also the workers as well, but it's both of you. You should be looking after your staff, and your staff should be looking after themselves as well. And I just feel like nobody's being looked after. People are just having to look out for themselves, despite the fact that they're pulling in millions and millions of dollars for Twitch.
Yeah, it is really crappy that people can't just let you move on. They'll keep at it forever. And honestly, I don't know why. I mean, some of them are certainly trolls. I genuinely think some of them aren't trolls, and they're just
angry.
I don't know. I want to call them like high horsers.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know what you mean.
That's kind of my like internal
saying.
nickname for them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
People who think they're like the best thing since sliced bread and want to like shit on everyone else who they think aren't PC enough or kind enough, or like whatever it is they've decided. And there is like holding people accountable, right? Like, if somebody has raped somebody else, that is very different from somebody accidentally did something or said something they didn't mean to, or has changed. Like, there's just different, we're treating everything as if it's like a threat to our safety. Every little thing. Oh, well, someone said this and I disagree with that. Or, for example, Alinity and her cat. I genuinely think she wasn't trying to hurt the cat, and we're treating this as if she went outside and hit it with a bat. Yeah. Like, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe she was, right? Like I said, I don't know enough about her.
No.
But it sounds. I mean, I know there was like a point where I think she was crying on stream, and sure, right? You can fake cry or whatever. It didn't look like she was fake crying. It looks like she really is sorry, and you just kind of like feel bad for them. They made a mistake. I mean, imagine if all of our mistakes were aired out. I know I've made mistakes. I know everyone has. If you haven't made a mistake, you're not human. And just think about how shitty that would feel if people took your mistakes in life from years ago or however long ago, even just last month. Maybe you've changed. Like, people change from day to day. You can change a lot in a month. And people just aired that out and then never let you live it down. It's just not nice. It's just mean. That's just bullying.
Yeah, it is bullying. I often wonder, like, when I talk to some of the people for that video on Twitter, I often wonder, like, and they would just like not even listen. They're not, they don't have the capacity to have a conversation because they're not actually listening to what you're saying. They're just going over it and with some sort of hysteria and saying, well, that makes you sexist, or that makes you transphobic, or like people are still going on about J.K. Rowling now, and I'm like, I don't keep up with it, but then I'm like, right, let's go back and see if I can actually find something that actually degrades or, you know, says something directly bad about trans people.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't anything. What, you know, because she, like we spoke about before, you know, she was saying that she wants to be able to celebrate her femininity and what she's achieved as a woman, and if we take that, you know, the problems, if we take that away, and it's really simple. It's really simple, and she never once said, I don't like trans people, or trans people aren't right, or she doesn't agree with it. But people, they don't have the capacity to. I don't know if this is because of a generation that have grown up with stuff like Twitter, where they just hit retweet and they don't even, and it's a very short 160 character tweet. They don't even read and process it. They just hit retweet. And then they're going to stand by it because they've retweeted it. Whatever happens, they don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. They don't want to process. They don't want to go. They don't want to think about things from any point of view apart from their own. They don't want to consider that somebody else might have a difference of opinion, and if they do have a difference of opinion, like I don't like racists. But to me, if somebody wants to be racist, and they're not actually going around using hate language, they're not going around trying to spread their word, you know, whatever, I think it's disgusting. But I still believe somebody has the right to think how they want. Acting on it and using and spreading it and using hate language, obviously that's different. And I absolutely, of course, I don't like it anyway, and I wouldn't be friends with those sort of people anyway. But we're telling people what they can say, and then to a lesser extent, people have opinions about how they see gender, right? And there are so many different ways now to see gender, but it's like it constantly evolves, and there's only one way. There's only one way, and if you differ or deliberate or question anything, then you're transphobic. Straight away, transphobic. I see it all the time. I think most people are not transphobic. I think they're people. I believe there are people, and that's a problem. But I honestly, if you keep telling people exactly how they have to think, you're going to push them the other way. Surely.
Yeah. Surely. Well, I think the biggest thing is we're in a learning curve with this. So I'm in full support of trans and trans right, and I've finally added like a little badge to my channel to show people, hey, I support this, so that they know that like they're cool to come and hang out with us, that we're not going to be assholes, that like it's okay, it's a friendly channel for them. And I think the biggest thing is, you know, it's when you've grown up believing one thing or being told one thing, you know, it's going to take some education before you see it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even for me, like I said, I'm not transphobic, but I didn't feel comfortable putting that badge up before because I didn't feel educated enough about it. I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
And while I know that I'm an accepting and kind person, I accept everyone, most everyone. There are some bad people, but I accept most everyone. Like, and I know that's not a choice you can make. That's something that is inside of you, and there's nobody can like wake up and feel that way. Like, it's just, that's how you are, right? But even I didn't really understand it, you know, and I actually ended up talking to my therapist about this. I was like, hey, do you know a lot about transgenders? I don't understand. You know, in my mind, there's gender and then there's sex, and then what's the difference? And how are there more than two? And then I learned about the way that, you know, you can be born with some parts versus like male parts with female hormones, or a female without a uterus, but you have a vagina. So like there's so many different ways that it can be expressed. And there's a big learning curve here. There's a big learning curve for someone who has not learned this stuff yet. So I think to come out and say transphobic right away, you aren't helping educate. Like, no. And I know people are like, well, we shouldn't have to educate but like the fact is, if somebody doesn't understand or isn't aware of this stuff, then they're not going to be able to support you or to be able to talk about it appropriately, because they don't know. You can't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I've seen people like going nuts about people not using the correct pronouns, and it's like, hey, they're trying to change the habit. People are trying to change the habit of a lifetime. Just say, he or she, or I mean, if you think back how, like, sometimes, like, to put it really basically and more trivially, when you see somebody with a baby when they're really young, you don't know a lot of the time whether it's a boy or a girl, because they're so they're so young. And it's like, you don't want to offend somebody, but people have like slipped out, but nobody would go like completely nuts for saying that the baby, calling the baby the other sex. Like, and I'm pretty sure that most people's parents, it wouldn't keep them up at night. Like, I'm pretty sure that it's a small thing. And it isn't the same. It is more trivial. But then, like, if the people don't mean any harm and they are not trying to intentionally cause any harm, then why can't you just say, instead of being angry, just say, oh, maybe I'd prefer it if you call me she or he or they or whatever, or just explain, I'm not really attracted to anybody. Just, I'm not attracted to people. Just and you don't have to use, not all the words have to be correct. Just say to somebody, oh, I'm this, and that means, I'm not really attracted to anybody. And I think most people would be like, okay. Of course not everyone would be like that, and there's always bigots and idiots, but talking to people reasonably instead of trying to constantly shame people. It's constant, and I don't understand it. That's not how we get people on side.
And it makes it difficult to try too. Like,
of course,
intent is important, and there are going to be some people who call you the wrong pronoun to be an asshole, and fuck them, right?
Of course there will.
But,
exactly.
Like, I genuinely want to do better, but I'm scared to try. I'm scared. I've been so scared to label my stream as LGBTQIA plus because I'm scared to fuck up, even though I want to be an ally so desperately. I really do, so desperately. I'm so terrified to fuck up because I feel bad. I never want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so it feels really good when you're talking to someone and maybe you do mess up and they educate you. And it's not their job, but like, it does make the world a better place. And I do think most people, they do want to try and they do want to be better, like, they're assholes, but I think most people want to be better,
Yeah.
So it sucks. You shouldn't have to educate other people, but at the same time, would you rather stand by that and dig your heels in and say, it's not my job to educate you? Or would you rather try your best to help educate people who do really want to be an ally and then make the world a better place, right? Like, one of those has better results. And then not only that, but maybe they go out and educate someone else, they pass it on. And then there's like this spider web effect where more and more people are educated. So I do think that's something I want to see more, is a little bit more education, a little less jumping on, well, if you said this, you're transphobic. Like, maybe they just don't understand what they said. Maybe they don't understand how that is transphobic or what the subtle nuances of it. Because sometimes it is a nuance. Sometimes if you say something, it's subtle, right? For example, like waitress, that has, like, there's so many subtleties that you don't pick up on, especially if you were raised in a different time. And, if they don't mean any harm by it, maybe just educate them. And maybe they will change their mind. Maybe they won't, and there are going to be some assholes who are going to try to like do mean things to hurt you intentionally. But I mean, just fuck those guys. We all hate them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We all hate them.
But it's like,
it is disappointing. I think
people are going mad about people calling people, they assume it's a postman or a mailman. Like, and we should know that there are women doing that job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. but do we just fly off the handle and say, wow, that's really that's really misogynistic, like chauvinistic, misogynistic, like, or do we say, oh, hey, actually there's quite a lot of women that do that job now, which would be like, oh yeah, okay. Or it's like, well, wow, you're sexist, and people are going to be like, whoa, I'm not. What? Because they're not. They've just grown up with men with only men doing that job pretty much, and it's just something that's ingrained in them.
Yeah, and even if you're not sexist, I mean, I don't consider myself a sexist person. I don't believe like blue is for boys and pink is for girls. I don't believe in any of that stuff, and yet I still might say mailman, right? Like because I grew up with it. Like these, sometimes you have habits that are going to take a while. First of all, habits take a while to sink in. Even if I want to wake up early or drink more water or exercise more, those little things take a while to set in. So when you're talking about like using specific words, those are habits too. They do take a while. And not only that, but it's harder to add more than one habit at a time. So when you have people tackling race and gender and sexuality and misogyny, there's going to be a learning curve, and we're going to fuck up. We're going to fuck up. Yeah. Like even I fuck up, and I try desperately not to hurt anyone and to be an ally and to do my best.
But here's the thing as well, Nick.
But it's hard.
You've been open about being bisexual, right?
Yeah.
And you obviously come under that banner, which actually I don't like. I'm not talking about you specifically. I don't like the banner because I kind of feel like it goes back to labeling for me. So, but I don't have a problem with it, and I recognize the importance of having those sorts of communities. And I've like I've said before, I've been out in those communities with a good friend of mine. Who's originally, he's gay and been going out for years in that community, and he is obviously under that umbrella. But he's like, we've spoken because he was furloughed for a while off work. We've spoken quite intensely about this, and he's like, I don't keep up with all the extra letters that we get. He's like, I don't really know much about trans people apart from like, we get up from when I'm out and we just like partying, but we don't talk about it. We don't know. He's like, I read bits. And then I see people saying that the problem is cis people who will never understand. But like my friend who is gay will say to me, he's like, well, I don't understand like what it's like to be trans, because that's something completely different. Yeah. Like that is not like, it's how can like, I understand why they come together as community, because it's like being they are going to be more understanding because they know what it's like to be sort of part of a minority, right? Or part of not the norm, for want of a better expression, right? Most people are straight. That's the way it is. So yes, that community is obviously very welcoming, doesn't really care about anything to do with that, and tends to be pretty open-minded. So I kind of understand that. That's why the community is great and people can feel comfortable there. I still don't like the labels, to be honest, because when obviously the first few times I went out on the gay scene as a straight man, it's really eye-opening, not in a bad way, and it never bothered me. And then like whenever I go to London now, we normally go out like in Soho, which is like the gay and LGBT area, and we just have a great time, have a few drinks, and I would now completely forget. I'm like, oh, we're in the gay LGBT area. No, we're just out having fun. Like I understand. I understand why it's important from the point of view for people to understand, like that there are people and an education point of view. But do we have to be talking about LGBT all the time? Can't we just aren't we all just people? Like I understand why it's important from an education point of view, because there are bigots and fascists still, and I do. I get that, but like I think it's kind of got to the point where my friend, and I can't speak for him entirely, but what I get from him is he's kind of fed up of it. He's not fed up of pushing for equal rights for everybody.
Yeah.
He's kind of fed up with people on the far left, a lot of them who are themselves not part of that community.
Yeah.
Pushing for stuff that they don't know about and telling people what to do and say, because those kind of communities have always been based on doing what you want. That's the whole point, isn't it? You do what you want, and as long as you're not taking it, ruining somebody else's life, then stop telling people what to do. If somebody's not hurting somebody or attacking somebody, then don't tell them what to do or say. If they're not part of your life and they're not actually hurting anybody else, and stop telling them what to do or say. And if they are doing that, don't tell them. Ask them questions so that they can think themselves. That would be my advice, but obviously it's complex. Very complex.
Yeah, I mean, I do see like the value in labeling, which is why I know I've talked before, like I hate saying like black man or black woman, because to me everyone's just a person. But then it's like you do have to be able to label a minority group to be able to say, well, these specific people experience an injustice in this way. Yes. So I do think for an educational awareness and injustice point of view, it is very useful to have the terminology. I do want to say though, because like some people do get really up in arms and they aren't even part of the group. Yeah. And that does frustrate me a bit, because it's like, unless they're really, really close to people who are part of that group and like participate in that group. I mean, you do have some people out there who are like, well, don't do this and don't do that. And it's like, you're speaking for a whole group that you don't really know much
you don't
about.
Understand. Yeah.
I know that happens. I just know that happens. But also, some people will say, oh, it's cis people. I can't stand that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to point out that you can be a part of a minority group and still be an asshole.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Within the community, the LGBTQIA community, there are some people who don't like bisexual because they're like, okay, what are you then? Right? Like bisexuals have gotten shit from cis people, from gay people, from, I mean, just whoever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, even if you're part of a small minority group, it doesn't automatically make you a good person. Like you can still suck in other ways too. So I don't like the whole it's cis people thing. Like it's people. It's people. People suck sometimes. I suck sometimes. I mean, it's just people. That's just what being human is, So I don't know. We all do shitty things sometimes. So I don't think it's any particular,
So, when people say or are discussing LGBTQIA+, do you naturally go, that's me? Or is it more that maybe you just have a bit of a better understanding than most people because of your
I think probably more of a understanding. So I don't really, when they say like LGBTQIA+, I don't really jump on that's me. To be quite honest, only because like I'm an introvert. I don't really have friends, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. I don't really have friends. I'm just an introverted person. So like, have I gone to gay parades? Yes. Like I've gone to Pride. I've, had friends who are lesbians or are gay or transgender, but I don't really hang out with a lot of people often or have that many friends.
Prefers dogs.
So my dog is. So yeah, when I hear that, I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm part of that group, because I'm not out there, hanging out with that group in particular, being active in the community. That's, I keep to myself. I'm not really active in any communities. So yeah, I guess I don't really identify strongly with it because I know I'm not really putting myself out there or doing much in that community.
Yeah, but I mean,
am I bisexual? Yeah, am I included under that umbrella? Yeah, but I do think there's a strong community there too.
Yeah. So maybe not part of the community then, but do you think? Because the idea is that everyone falls under that umbrella, whether they're part of that, whether they are actively in a community or not. Do you ever think? Does it make you sort of sit up and think, well, this is about me? Or partly about me, not just you, obviously, but like it does.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that I'm part of that group, I guess. Yeah. Like I understand that it's B, right? Like there's a B in there, and I fall under that B. Yeah. So I do identify with the group in that way. Like I understand that it is referring to me.
Yeah.
I'm not very active in that community, so I do think I get nervous. Not only am I bisexual, which bisexuals get a lot of shit or have in the past. I don't know if it's getting better. I don't really talk about this stuff very often because, again, I keep to myself, so I haven't really had to argue with many people.
Yeah, of course.
My parents don't understand it, but I mean, I still love them. They're just, a little old school. But yeah, I guess even as someone who's bisexual, I have troubles talking about this stuff because I'm not so active in the community. So even as somebody who falls under that umbrella, just because I'm part of the B doesn't mean I understand the T fully, right? So like I still have education to do, and I still recognize, okay, this group is more than bisexuals, and I have to, as a person who wants to do better, understand, okay, the I and the A, like, at first when I heard LGBTQIA, I didn't know what it was, right? Like, and now I understand it's intersex and asexual.
That's right.
I still need to know what the plus is. I actually don't know what the plus is. I think it's non-gender binary. I think it's non-binary. I think.
Is it? I don't know.
But even if it's bisexual, I mean,
I just assumed it was just like coverage, just in case there was something you hadn't, covered in that. But like, I don't know, like how many letters do we add before it becomes, before there's so many letters that it's just like anybody? Because at some point, I mean, because people ask me people don't ask me a lot. Like partners I've had in the past will often ask, have you ever had like feelings for another guy? And I never have. But I know that it's very, very common for a lot of men or women who identify as completely straight for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, but does that mean, are we going to end up with somebody saying, well, actually, I am like 99% straight, but there's this 1% of me that's like, do you know what? And then do we have another letter for that person? And then before you know it, we've got more letters than the alphabet, and it just becomes completely irrelevant then, because it just ends up being everybody.
Yeah. Well, sexuality is, in my opinion, very much a scale. I consider sexuality scale. I know, I think it was Robert Kinsey did some experiments regarding sex. And I believe he was the one who came up with the concept of a scale. So there is that. And I do think as humans, we like to label it, right? Like,
of course.
For example, if I was a lesbian, I'd be like, I'm only attracted to women. And it does have use, and it's helpful to have terms for it. But I do think that, for the sake of inclusivity, I understand that these terms like LGBTQIA plus, like, very much needs to exist right now for awareness and education purposes. I do hope eventually as humans we get to the point where we can actually drop that and just because it just is. It because
it's no longer a problem.
Yeah. That's my hope, is that eventually we get to the point where we don't have to use these categories anymore. You just are. So
yeah. It's interesting what you say about the scale as well, because so in that community, and one of my friends, he had a friend who would say that she was a lesbian. But we went out one night and got up in the morning, and she'd brought a guy home, and it was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, so, because like that group of people completely open, like you couldn't offend them. Like I'm just like, oh, a bit of both then, and she was just like, no, not really.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, well, whatever. Like, but she still wouldn't just class herself as bisexual.
Yeah.
So I learned like years ago that it's not straightforward, and the scale thing, if I was to ask her, and I don't know, sat her down and said, like, okay, so this is how much you like men and this is how much you like women. Where are you on the scale? And there probably would be a place that they would probably be able to put themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine there's quite a few people like that. If they're not just attracted to men or women, and they're on this scale, I think I think that has a lot of merit, and that's I have no idea, being not completely at one end of the scale, but that's quite. I feel like the scale thing seems quite powerful.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, that's just how I've always thought of it. It makes the most sense to me, especially like I think of like as multiple scales personally, because I know like, for example, like Snack Daddy can say that Henry Cavill is attractive.
Yeah.
Does Snack Daddy want to do things with Henry Cavill? Actually, I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so.
I'll ask him.
Snack Daddy considers himself straight, but
yes.
The point is, like, for example, I prefer the look of women more aesthetically, but in relationships, I've tended to go for men, right?
Yeah.
So like, there's different ways that you can express sexuality. Sometimes it's you prefer being physical with, you know, maybe it had something to do with physical with that guy, or maybe it had to do with attractiveness. Maybe it was that one specific guy. Like there are some people who are like straight, but then
one person.
They're gay for like, I mean, there's so many nuances. Like it is very much a scale, and sometimes not even one scale. Maybe it's like an attractiveness scale that's non-sexual, and then one that is sexual. And
definitely.
I mean, it's just, as humans, we desperately want to categorize things and put things in neat little boxes, and it doesn't work that way. And I think this is one of the instances. So we're doing our best because we do need terminology to describe different nuances so that we can talk about it, but it doesn't fit in a neat little box. So I think all we can do is do our best, but recognize that, okay, yeah, she slept with a man, but she is still a lesbian. That is what she considers herself. That is what she is, right? So
do you think then that it could ever be an issue that, so we got all these terms for different people and how they describe their sexuality. What then if somebody is different again to all of those? Are they going to be like, well, there's all these and I don't fit into like 7, 8, 9, 10. What's wrong? You know, what's wrong with me? There's
a level of non-inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
Because like as a bisexual, I've only ever had 3 relationships. I'm not really, I don't date a lot.
You got to times that by 3. Remember, that's what the rule is, right?
Is that really it?
No,
I'm gonna count that later.
Divide it by 3 for men and times it by 3. No, it's just like, I think it was in American Pie or something stupid like that.
I'm actually gonna calculate that out. I'm curious now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've only ever had 3 relationships. So 2 were with men and 1 was with a woman.
Yeah.
And the one with the woman was a long time. It was 4 or 5 years. It was serious. And yet, because I'm currently dating a male, I know that. And like I said, my parents are from an older generation, so they might not be the best example, but they're like, oh, she's straight. That was just a one-off thing. And you very much can get some of that, right? And
yeah.
So yeah, there is, in using terms, in using labels and trying to qualify everything, it's like, oh, well, have you been with 50-50, or do you lean one way? Well, then you're not bisexual anymore. Or, oh, you're a lesbian, but you've been with a man. Well, then you're not a lesbian. Like,
just a phase.
When you try too hard to adhere to these things, you actually end up being non-inclusive.
Yeah, I guess.
The just a phase things, that makes me it makes me so mad.
I bet it does.
Because like attractive wise, like I prefer women. If a hot girl passes by, I'm just whoop. Whereas with men, it's like, okay. You know, with men, it's like if Henry Cavill passes by, I mean, yeah. But like I do tend to prefer women aesthetically, whereas I've been with more men intimately. So like there's just so many nuances to it. And when you try so hard to classify it, you actually end up invalidating someone's feelings, invalidating, you know, what someone's experience is. To question me and my bi-ness and who I'm with now versus who I've been with versus what the percent is, how many women I've had sex with versus men. Like when you do that, you're starting to actually invalidate my experience and my existence. So there is a point where it becomes non-inclusive, where it's a little bit too much trying and trying to label things, you know, like your friend. I'm sure she's probably gotten shit from people like, oh, well, you brought a man home, so like you're not a lesbian. And like, there are people out there who would do that, and that's very shitty and not inclusive. So you can take it too far.
Yeah, I do. Do you think that so in like, so it's interesting actually what you say about like your parents, like. You understand that they're of a different generation and they've grown up with like straight or maybe behind closed doors gay, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what they know. That's what they grew up with.
But they love me. That's what's important.
Yeah, of course.
They love me. They didn't disown me when I came out. They don't get it, but they love me.
But you also understand that, though. You also understand that, well, it's gonna be when they went for years and years and years not knowing never heard of bisexual or like you understand that you can't just, they're not just gonna suddenly be like, oh yes, I completely understand this. Like you understand that.
They just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
and maybe they're not trying hard enough, but I mean, because sometimes there's people who don't try to understand.
But they're also there
are some people who do.
Yeah, but they're also not trying to attack people who, you know, and I think that's where I go back to, whereas I don't necessarily agree with that point of view, but everybody's got family who are older, and somebody in their family will have that sort of, not necessarily like think bad of people, but they just don't get it. But if they're not really hurting anybody, and they're not actively trying to bring these people down, yes, they probably should. You know, as a lot of young people would argue, they probably should try and understand more. But you know, but you can't. Nothing changes overnight. Like women in work. How long did it take? It took a long time from women getting the vote to it being like where we are now, and there are still problems with pay gaps and stuff like that. But how long did it took 100 years, right? So, but it's much better. You know, when I was when we were young, Nick, it was a lot of people still frowned upon people for just being gay. You know, forget trans, forget anything like that, just gay. And there are still different cultures and stuff that are less accepting or whatever, but it's come a long way, which that doesn't mean we should stop. It doesn't mean we should stop pushing that. But, you know, these people, if they're not attacking people and they're at an older time of life, are you going to spend your time trying to change their perception, or should you be making sure that this new generation, the younger generation, are more accepting and that they understand what's important? Because there's a lot of people being divided at the minute by like politics, for instance. It's the same here as it is in the States. There's like a big polarization, right? And it's true here and it's true in the States. It's almost like it's completely different, but it's almost identical. But also now people it's getting to the point where I feel like we're going backwards with regards to like politics, because people just used to keep that sort of to themselves. Like there were of course activists, lobbyists, and people who wanted to represent certain parties always, but like neighbors, like people talk to their neighbors quite often, especially in the States. I noticed, like when I lived there, a lot of the people would talk to their neighbors regularly, and it was like it wasn't just like, oh hey, there's John, you know, let's wave to John. It's like, well, I've seen John on Facebook and he's a real stern Republican, so I'm not going to talk to that asshole anymore. I feel like and it's happening here as well. Yeah, people are being really polarized and they're taking things really personally, and that's backing us away from talking to each other, because people feel like they can say what they like behind a keyboard, without consequence or without having to consider what other people are saying. And then if you are one of those stern Republicans, do you end up being like, well, I need to stick with other Republicans? And then they might start to hang around with people who are extreme Republicans, you know, and are against like the liberties of certain people. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting that's what Republicans do. This is just an example. Whereas before it was just like we didn't think about it as much, but now we share our political beliefs on social media all the time. people get really angry and fall out, and I feel like that's just something. There's just the general public. I feel like that's something that didn't happen a while ago.
Yeah.
And whereas we are going the right direction with a lot of stuff, that's what worries me ultimately. That if we keep polarizing, then we're going to get like two sets of people who start to believe in different things. And start to forget that it's okay, like it's fine to be gay, because why the heck would it bother you? Like what somebody else is doing with their life. I worry about that and the polarization.
Yeah, it's certainly scary, and I've actually thought about it because I mean, we do want to be able to talk about our political beliefs. We want to be able to talk to other people. Like that's how you grow and change.
Yeah.
And of course, trying to understand, right? Like when I say maybe my parents aren't trying to understand, like what I mean by that is they're not talking to me or really listening to what I say about it. You know, there's a difference between like trying to understand and you still don't get it versus like, well, no, that's not what I like, and not listening and shutting someone out. And I think we're doing a lot of that right now. We're doing a lot of not trying to understand, a lot of shutting each other out. So I think it's crappy that like talking more openly about these things should be liberating and should make us better, but it's actually pitting us against each other. But I feel like that's actually a cycle. So when you think about it, right, there's the Civil War, and then you can even think back to like Roman times, like the polarization between what was there, like the Republican democracy. But like throughout history, we've had these issues where there's so much polarization. So it feels very new to us because I feel like we didn't really grow up with it so much. But I feel like it's a cycle where like it gets really bad. There's a fight, and then things are okay for a while, and then it's really bad, and there's a fight, and so what makes me more mad about that is like, you know, they always say history repeats itself. Fuck, why can't we just learn from it?
Yeah,
why can't we do it differently this time? You know, we've been through this cycle over hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, let's just do it differently. Damn it.
Yeah,
so it is a little frustrating. It is a little frustrating that we're going through this again. And like, for example, the disbelief of science, right? Anti-vaxxers. Well, right. We have flat earthers. Well, we've been through that, you know, like I feel like these things like rejecting the facts, polarization, you know, not trying to understand, putting people into minority groups, all of this stuff, like it's just been repeating over and over and over again. And I just really hope one day we're like, nope to that. This is it. This is where we do it better. This is where we do it right. And, you know, you'd hope it'd be our time. You'd hope it'd be this time. I don't know if it will be. It's not looking like it. Right. But I don't know. I mean, social media does change things. Like now it's more prevalent. Like prevalent, not prevalent as in more open. It's easier to see.
Yeah, it's easier to see. It's also easier to spread garbage and stuff that isn't facts, which is a big problem. But one of the big problems I have is like Zuckerberg picking and choosing what politics he's allowing and what politics they're showing. Like, and he's getting away with this. He's still getting away with this.
Yeah, that's shitty.
And I mean, this is the thing as well. I think probably on the whole, what he's trying to get rid of is probably a lot of stuff that I'd agree with, but I don't agree with silencing people. Like, I don't believe in not giving people an even platform. I don't know whether it gets to the point, because if you're Mark Zuckerberg, you've changed the world. Single-handedly changed. Well, obviously there's a big team now, but he single-handedly changed the world. Like, what he did. And, well, there's arguments about the ideas and stuff like that, but whatever. Like, he's the one who implemented the change. He changed the world, whether we like it or not. That social media changed the world. And I was thinking the other day about MySpace.
Tom. Good old Tom. I miss you, Tom. Where are you? Return my calls.
Yeah, my first friend on MySpace. And MySpace always maintained it was not for profit. It was not for advertising, and it was completely customizable. Like, for a start, you could make your page exactly how you wanted. Now that might seem really trivial, but it isn't.
I dug it. I'm so happy about it.
It's so important, and like subconsciously, like it makes you realize we're all a bit different and individual. And there was it's like you'd go and visit other people's pages. You go and visit other people's pages and chat to them. You didn't have this timeline where everybody's just sharing shit, like, and then you get in ads, and then like, if you wanted to see, you went over to their page, and you know what? I think obviously things are going to evolve, but what Zuckerberg's doing to me is completely wrong. But I do feel like it's becoming more of an older person platform.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And I'm really torn on what he's doing, right? Because he's not a government entity. Facebook is a private corporation. And like, let's say I owned like a grocery store and I said, you can't come in here with your racist bullshit.
Yeah,
sure, you can. Freedom of speech protects racism, but like, I privately own this, so I can tell you to fuck right off, and that's my right.
Yeah.
So you know, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. So I don't necessarily mind if he deletes, like, let's say misinformation or things that are harmful, like attack campaigns, like trying to cancel other people.
Yes.
But you know, because it is private, but there are some nuances that are scary.
They're also getting rid of or using different algorithms for parties and political parties that they don't necessarily agree with. Not that are doing anything wrong by law either. That's the problem I have, because obviously hate is against the law. You know that it's a hate crimes.
Yeah.
So you got freedom of speech, right? But a hate crime doesn't fall under that. You can still get in big trouble for spreading hate crimes. Especially if they're aimed at people or in public or whatever. I think behind closed doors with whoever you want to talk to about whatever, whether I agree with it or not, you should be able to say what you like. But like,
you know, I think their problem is that they're trying to appeal, like Facebook is for everybody. I think that's where they're getting into trouble, because then you have all of these people doing all of these things that are just so like, I feel like Facebook needs to be like, hey, we stand for this and we don't stand for this. Like, they need to fucking make themselves known instead of being that creepy organization behind the scenes who kind of just lets weird shit happen and then like low key deletes certain things, like they need to just be transparent.
So there's certain, like, I'm not going to say it, but there are certain names as well. And for YouTube, there are certain names you can say on any of these platforms, and your video, your post, it will be deleted. It won't be there. It won't post, or it'll post, it'll be deleted. Now, so I need to do some more digging on this. But I read a bit about it the other day. I didn't have much time, but I spoke to a couple of friends I trust, and they were like, "Yeah, for sure. You never tried doing that. You never tried some of these names." And I was like, "No, I've never tried. I've never tried doing that. Like, why?" And a lot of these names I'd never heard of. It's really weird. Really, really weird. It's like,
so now I'm curious what the names are, because now I don't know what to avoid.
Yeah, but I don't think
I feel like I know at least one.
But yeah, I think on the whole, it's not like necessarily like some big celebrity that everyone's heard of. Like, it's not somebody who'd slip. Like, it wouldn't be a slip of the tongue and like you talk about by accident. But like, maybe that's something that we'll probably educate ourselves on a little bit for next week. But,
we should. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm curious if it's different for educational purposes, because there's some shitty people out there that maybe you're trying to educate other people on.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if that's different.
But no, it was something that I actually heard on another podcast, and then just had but it was late at night and I quickly had a look. But we will look deeper into that. Without saying the names, obviously, because the VOD will just get deleted. But
I secretly hope one is just a random name, like Steve, my neighbor Steve, that motherfucker whose lawn is like an inch too long.
Well, like,
I'm pretty sure they're
Steve,
terrible people, but
but the thing is as well, like, when corporations or businesses get to a certain size, like, there can be bodies that take over and decide what's okay and not okay, right? Because like, it happens in like there are monopoly laws, right, about what you can and can't do. I mean, they're really strict in this country. what you can and can't do, like so that like with trade and stuff, you can't try and monopolize it so that you can only be the only one who is ever like, there are laws against that. So I feel like when these social media bodies become a certain size, shouldn't there be a body then that is looking after what is being shared, what's being deleted, and checking the algorithms and making sure that if you are claiming to be a fair platform, because otherwise, like you say, Nick, you should just be saying, we don't stand for these right-wing views, and that's what we are. Because then that's fine if you say that. But then at the same time, I'd be kind of like, not allowing that information is kind of, and just feeding them liberal posts is kind of propaganda, right? Like, withholding information.
I think we all do that
like,
to an extent. Like, think about your stream versus my stream, right? Like, we're all gonna. So, like, there is freedom of speech, which means that different people are gonna have different safe spaces, so to speak. So, like, let's say Facebook was like, I don't like right wing. Like, it would be like liberal stuff shared, but the right wingers would come out with their own thing too, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
I think, but then it's like dividing groups up doesn't.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. When something becomes, like you say, it is Facebook and it belongs to them. But when something becomes a certain size and it's so influential, it does feel like they're kind of, and as much as I hate that, because I don't want to be like governing bodies to have to rule everything. Yeah. But then
that's the slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very slippery slope.
Where you want like regulation with certain things, you don't want sketchy stuff.
Yeah, but where do we start it and where do we stop it? And that's the problem, because we don't know, because I know there are we know there are so many uneducated people who will just read anything and believe it. They'll just believe it.
Yeah. So, and there's so many trade-offs, you know, like security. You have security and sharing correct information, but then privacy. I mean, there's just so many trade-offs. Like, it's hard. It's such a hard thing, because some people, you know, are like, oh, well, I'm okay with more monitoring if it means more security. And other people, like, I value my privacy. Like, yeah, do I want to be safe? Of course. Do I want other people to be safe? Of course. But there's a solid line for me where I'm like, okay, like, my privacy is not worth, like, my freedom and my liberties of privacy are not worth this. You know, like, everyone has their line and it's going to be different. So it makes it so complicated, because what do you govern? What do you give over? What do you not give over? And it's really hard. And let's say like a governing body did take over and start governing things on Facebook. Well, then the people on the right who tend to believe in less government here, like, well, that's upsetting in its own way too, you know. But then if a government body doesn't take over, then there's a misinformation. Like, it's so hard.
Really very complicated.
So complex. It's so fucking complex.
Yeah. But
it's daunting.
I feel like Facebook is in, it might, you know, if you looked at the figures, they'd probably say it's still growing, but I think certainly in the Western world and young people, it's on a decline for sure.
Yeah. Like, I deleted mine like a year ago.
I've got rid of mine several times, and then people are like, hey, I couldn't message you, and it's like, I just don't post anything on there anymore, really. And it's there if, you know, whatever, if the person I went to school with 16 years ago suddenly wants to that I never spoke to, that I never even spoke to at school, yet we're friends because I went to a really big school, and it's like we didn't even speak at school because there was 2,500 kids there, and like I never spoke to half the people just in my year, and then like but we're friends on Facebook. What the fuck?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing about Facebook. Like, it frustrates me because your Facebook is supposed to be private in your wall in your little area, but then you feel like you're socially obligated to just accept people, or else you're a dick. Like, if you're like, I'm not going to friend Freddie from school, even though he sent me a friend request, like, it seems kind of rude, but it's like, this is my personal space where I should have family and friends, but there's like that obligation. It's really weird, isn't it?
Do you think that most people are like, or a lot of people just want to see where everyone else is at for their own for their own comfort? That's fucking
Let's
weird.
Be honest, we've all added an ex.
Whoa,
not the healthiest thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, in the past, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like, we'll just stay friends, right? And then you're like, and like, we've all learned that lesson the hard way, that that's not healthy. Hopefully it's not just me, but
there is another victim.
Right, but yeah, I do think people want to keep up with other people, you know, which I personally, I'm actually the opposite, where when I was on Facebook, I was like, I don't give a shit about any of this. I didn't. And like just scrolling past, and like it was just like a time suck where it was just constantly scrolling, and I was like, this is the worst. Why am I doing this? It was
got like, it's funny though, because I don't like, you see people like when I was getting older, and they'd post like a picture of their fucking Range Rover or whatever that they just bought.
Yeah.
I mean, and which is fine. Like that, like I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not massively into cars. But was it because they were just happy to get this car, or was it like, hey, I got this? And I know that some people, including the kind of people that I had as partners in the past, would be like, oh my gosh, they've got a Range Rover. Mm-hmm. They must be doing well. You know, they kind of weird, kind of sad. I mean, we've had it in our culture for a long time before, like with magazines, or even if it was as simple as what they say, keeping up with the Joneses. You know, the people on your street, you know, in the neighborhood, keeping up with them and what they're doing and what they've got. But now it's like keeping up with the Joneses on crack, because you've got hundreds of people that you used to go to school with the same age,
sharing their highlights.
No fucking lowlights, you know, or very rarely, you know, unless it's something extremely serious, like, you know, the passing of somebody or whatever. There's no fucking, people don't go on there and say, like, oh, tonight was a bit shit. I went out with, you know, my man, and actually life's not that great, but we're going to smile for these pictures. And I just feel really shitty, even though I look like I'm having a good time. Nobody puts that, do they? Nobody.
I want to see that Facebook where someone's just brutally fucking honest about their
just
thoughts.
Complete. Maybe that should be some sort of social experiment where, like, see what happens. Like, somebody, you know, get somebody who's like 18. I mean, this isn't very ethical. Get somebody who's like, I'm not a scientist. I'm not like a psychologist or a scientist, and it wouldn't be a fair study. But let's get an 18-year-old and say, look, we're going to pay you $5 million. You got to be freaking honest with me. Like, you got to post everything as honest as you think. If you're with a partner and you've had a shit day because you think that you fucking hate them, then then you're going to post that. And whatever the consequences are, the consequences are. It's your diary now. This is your diary now.
I'm just thinking of like what my brutally honest post would be. Mine would be really sad. It'd be something like, hey, woke up and ate cookie dough. I feel like shit because I can't stop eating cookie dough, and I'm putting on some weight, but I'm addicted. Please help me.
Now I'm anxious. Now I'm anxious because I'm looking at myself and I think I'm putting on weight.
But I can't stop.
But I can't stop.
I don't want diabetes. Please help.
Yeah, exactly.
Please, someone, God help me help myself. Yeah.
Like, but
that would be fucking depressing.
No, nobody puts that. I think people are more likely to go in Twitch chats and say that, which is the weird thing.
Yeah.
Like,
because the anonymity.
Yeah, like, and they do, like, because sometimes this is a thing as well. Like, if somebody's going through a bad time, I'm not just gonna like, I never want to just dismiss somebody, right? Because they could be going, and we've been there, and we know how that feels. Me and you, Nick, and just like, to what turns out to be more people than we ever thought. The more we talk to people. So I'd never just dismiss somebody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't, like, I'm not even though, like, I'm knowledgeable about it because of what I've been through and what I've studied, I'm not a professional. Like, I know obviously some of these people are desperate, but it's hard because it's like, well, what do you say? Because you don't want to be like, but you don't want to bring the chat down. Yeah, that's an interesting point actually. Have you ever had that, Nick? Like,
yeah, I've had people in chat talk about things and they're like, I don't want to bring the chat down, and It's hard. And I think it speaks to a cultural thing. We're so inclined when somebody asks us how we're doing, do we even actually fucking answer that question honestly? Do we ever say, no, I'm not doing good, I'm depressed, or I'm going through shit?
Not very often.
And if you did, you're seen as that Debbie. No one wants to fucking talk to you, right? Yeah. And so I think culturally, and then you have social media where people share their highlights and their best parts. Culturally, we are wired that it's only okay to share the good parts. Yeah. To the point where if we share the bad parts, we feel really, really bad and we don't want to. And we're like, I don't want to bring this down. I don't want to share this. So then we keep it in, which is shit and not good and healthy. And also, it doesn't give us any practice. When we are met with these situations, we have no fucking idea what to do. Even if we've been through it ourselves, we have no practice with this because it has to be, we're good, we're fine, put on a happy face, share the best things you have going on. So like, even as someone who's been through it myself, like someone will come up to me and say something or need to talk. And it's hard to navigate. It's hard. You don't want to say the wrong thing. And if we were more culturally accepting and open of it's okay to not be okay, it's okay. And this is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
And this is how you deal with it yourself and talk about it. And this is how you talk to somebody else who's dealing with it. That would make it a lot easier. But that's not how it is.
Yeah, and that would probably encourage people as well to be, if they're more knowledgeable, to seek the right kind of channels to get help, definitely. But it's interesting what you say about putting on this face. I was thinking the other day, you know when you watch the news and I don't know, a country's being bombed fuck out of again or whatever, and you see like these mass funerals or whatever, and the family members, like in the Middle East, and they are so physically distressed and beside themselves, and rightly so, because they've just lost, a family member. They're like, in their culture, it's like they are mourning straight away. And they are wailing and sobbing and like they can't stand and like, whereas in our culture, it's like you're going to go to the funeral and you're going to stand up in front of everybody and you're going to put on a brave face and you're going to read in front of fucking 300 people. When
and don't say no or you're a dick.
Yeah. And if you don't, you're a dick. And I'm like, and that brings me to like, I think funerals are really fucked up anyway. Like they're such a fucked up thing that we do, like an incredibly fucked up thing. Like I'm fortunate that like the only people in my family that have passed have been of age, where it's like it's not a really, really. Sometimes, of course, it's still sad, but it's not like they've lived full lives,
Yeah.
Still doesn't make for the closest people to them. It still doesn't make it easy, of course, but like I've been to a funeral of a friend of mine who died when he was 19, I was 19. Died in a horrific car accident. Long story, not his fault. Which is just it's fucking horrendous. Like the whole thing is horrendous, right? It wasn't really anybody's fault either. There was, and that funeral, right, for one, was like, because obviously when you're 19 and you just left school, and he was a popular person, not even everybody could get inside, right? It was so packed. When the hearse pulls up and the car behind with his mum and his sister and stuff in, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why do we do this? They've got to walk in front of everybody waiting outside. Some of the guys from the family are carrying his coffin on their shoulders, and they've got to walk behind this in front of everybody. They're probably like in a state of shock still, like they still don't know what the fuck's going on. And we just society expects that we do this, and they go and stand up in front of everybody, and then we all go and have a drink, like, and celebrate the life and that's okay for like a lot of people who aren't necessarily that close or attached, because it's like, hey, this is a drink for, and that's cool. Like, I get that. We're having a drink for, and they'd want us to enjoy it, and I get that. But for the for the immediate family, especially, and close friends, it's just fucking horrific. I've never understood it. I've really never ever understood it. Like, it's just so bizarre. Just so bizarre. And we're expected to behave appropriately in that situation.
Yeah.
Like I say, luckily,
that's a good point.
I've not had to do it like as an immediate family member, but I can't imagine like the time will come, obviously, where I have to do that. But I mean, going to somebody who was like not a really close friend or a best friend, but somebody I hung out with regularly as a group, that was bad enough. But obviously, his mum and sister were there, so it was like I wasn't thinking about me, even though it was. I felt, terrible, obviously, but like, what were they feeling if I felt that bad?
Yeah.
And we're all just there, but there's no eyes on me. There's eyes on them, on the family, and it's like, oh, isn't this horrendous? Isn't this so sad? I feel so sorry for them. Do they want that? Do they want to have to go through that? But there's this thing that they have to keep some sort of face. Yeah, it's okay to weep a bit and cry, but like I was going back to, like in some of the cultures where they're like physically wailing, and it's almost like they're properly getting this grief out, beginning to get this grief out. There's no messing around. It's like, this is how I am, this is how I feel, completely expressing themselves, and it's completely accepted. Whereas if you did that here or like in the States, it would be like, what the fuck's going on, man? This is weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad, yes, but they shouldn't be doing this. I think a lot of people would feel like that. It's just so strange, just so incredibly strange that we do it.
That's a good point. I haven't thought of that, because like I am a wailer, to be honest. Just like instinctually, like I am just like that comes out. But I haven't thought about, because I haven't really had to go through funerals, right? Like with Mocha, there was a lot of wailing and a lot of sad.
Yeah, of course.
There weren't so many cultural expectations on what to do there. Versus if Snack Daddy passed, I will have a breakdown. Like that's just kind of been my track record. Yeah. But I'd also be I haven't thought about that, like how devastated I would feel, but then also having to deal with all of that. That's a good point. I haven't been there.
You got to that does sound horrific. No, I unfortunately, I haven't either. But when you've got so much stuff to sort out already, and people expect them to be in the ground in a couple of weeks, or cremated in a couple of weeks, and it's like, if the funeral's more than a couple of weeks, unless it's pending like a medical investigation or something like that, it's like, whoa, why have they still not had the funeral? I think I prefer, like personally, and I think I probably prefer, like if it was somebody close to me, or like even like one of my parents, is just like if they weren't of an old age, and hadn't lived a full life, and it was cut short for whatever, or the circumstances were tragic, why not just keep like the main ceremony to immediate family and very, very good friends, and a lot of people do this, and I completely understand why, and then it's like you go to the wake after, which is still kind of weird, because I've seen people at wakes really enjoy themselves, and in fact, I can honestly say some of the wakes I've been to, I've had a really good time. Sometimes because it's been a really good celebration of their life, and sometimes, selfishly, it's because I didn't know the person that well, and it was good to see people, and have a drink and talk to people. And it's kind of like, but then I see family members, and I'm like, shit, like I'm almost enjoying myself,
Yeah.
Because you just get caught up with seeing old people and having a drink. You have a couple of drinks, and then it's like, and then you forget, but they're going through hell, and it's such a weird thing, very, very strange. But
it is.
But the whole thing is, it's like the point that you made about this, our cultures and saving face, and this perfect, everything's perfect, social media is perfect. I've never felt the pressures of that, but we know that there are a lot of young people who are, well, and older people, but there are a lot of young people especially who are feeling those pressures. I didn't have to grow up with that at school, because bullying is so like prolific on social media now.
It is. And even if you like, the fucked up thing is you can post something totally normal and natural, like having some shitty feelings or having depression, or like women, like I saw the other day that someone shared a picture of Pokimane without makeup, and was like, people were just dragging her and like talking about how she was a 40-year-old woman and looked horrible. And first of all, she looks great. And most people would, agree, I think, deep down.
I wondered what you were going to say then when you said most people would, and I was like, what's she going to say?
To choose my words. But like, she looks great. So you can't even share like a normal fucking human experience. Like, women don't look the way they do with makeup. I'm sorry, they just don't. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're fucking humans too. We're not these goddesses who descended from the beauty cloud. Like, it doesn't fucking happen. And like, you can't post without makeup. You can't post that you have a little bit extra weight. You can't post that you have feelings that are, should be kept down. You can't post anything that's not perfect without having people fucking rip you apart for just a normal fucking human experience, for just existing a normal day as a human. And that's so crappy.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Frustrating.
What do you mean your menstrual cycle's fucking with you? Just get on with it. Every woman deals with it. Get on with it.
Oh, I've had so many people like, I don't want to hear about that. And I'm like, I don't want to go through it.
I don't want to fucking have it. Yeah. But guess what?
Like, come on. Who has it worse here? Let's be real.
If we didn't have one, then you wouldn't be here, any of you.
Yeah, true. And it's like, just be adults about it. Fuck.
I've seen women who obviously, because it differs as well from woman to woman, right? Like some women get away like really, really well with it, and some women really get struck down with it really bad. It's like so different. And then some women would be like, well, they just need to get on with it. We all do it. And it's
I hate that. I was in the worst group. That's why I don't have a uterus now. Fuck that thing. But I was in that group where like, I didn't menstruate very often. It was like 4 times a year, but when I did, it was really fucked up. I'd end up in the hospital, and you'd have people like, it's not that bad. Like literally women, like can I just say, and this is going to sound really fucked up, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but I just feel like I need to point it out. I've had female gynecologists who were just fucking awful. Yeah. And I've had male gynecologists who were stellar. And I really think it's because the female gynecologist would relate everything to how they experienced it.
Maybe that
so
makes
of course
sense.
I couldn't be like, I must just not be able to handle pain or this and that, because theirs was not the same as mine. And so they were like, oh, well, it couldn't be that bad. Whereas the male gynecologist, honestly, I felt like they always trusted me. They always took my word for it. They like, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. But men will shame women for talking about it. Women will shame women for saying that it's worse than they think it is. Like, you can't fucking win. You can't win.
Do you think of like, because people always say, if you have a cold and you ring up work and you say, oh, I feel like shit, I'm not coming into work. Like, I worked for a Japanese company, and it was like, no, that was not okay. Like, you couldn't just do that.
Yeah.
With what's happened, and sometimes you get a cold and it's just like, I have a bit of a cold, I feel a bit shit, but I can get on with my day. And sometimes you're fucked, right? Sometimes you're fucked. And you ring up and say, well, you don't want to say you got flu, because everyone will go, you haven't got flu. That's not flu. Yeah. If you had flu, you wouldn't get out of bed, for a week. And we know now with coronavirus, it's so different for everybody anyway. Like, do you think because of coronavirus now that people are going to be like, I've got a cold, I can't come to work? Are people going to start accepting that?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think it's the same case of like, oh, well, like when you've had a cold, everybody experiences it differently. Maybe someone has had a cold and it's not so bad, or maybe it's been so long and they remember it as not as bad as it was. Like, it's like this bias, whereas if you have a cold, you're like, oh, this is awful. But if somebody else has a cold and you need that person, you're like, it's just a cold, right? Like, I think culturally we're so ingrained into like, get the fuck over it, which I think is stupid. Okay, maybe it is just a cold and not the flu. Let them stay home. Like, I mean, you're only making your immune system worse. You're only lowering your capabilities and your ability to like get on with your day and do things right and get things done and your productivity by coming in. I do think we're very unforgiving in that sense, which I think is stupid. Like, I've always been scared to call out of work, and I feel like you shouldn't be scared.
No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't be scared to call out work.
Not if you're ill. But nobody, I feel like the culture is that nobody believes you anyway. Like, on the whole,
they don't.
Even if when I was a supermarket manager at different stores, like once every 2 years. Like, you get colds and stuff like everybody does, but once every 2 years I would have like a cold that was like this is really rough. Like, if I wasn't going to work, I wouldn't be doing anything else but being in bed, not even on the sofa. Like, this is rough. And stupidly, I used to take myself to work. Now, my 5th year of being there, I'd had in the last 3 years, I hadn't had a day off, like, ill, for three or 3.5 years, something like that. I got ill, and I was like, do you know what? I feel like shit. I'm not going back to work. And it was a good shout, because it's even resting. It took me 3 or 4 days to get over it. I went back to work, and people, like, not like my staff, but like other managers were like being really shitty with me, like I was making it up. And I thought, shit, I've come to work before really ill, like really fucking ill, when I shouldn't have done. And I haven't had a day off in 3.5 years. And you're saying to me, you make out like I'm fucking like making it up. Like, I just wonder whether, I mean, like you say, you think we'll probably just go back to normal eventually, and people will just forget. Probably.
I think so. I think so. I think humans are very quick to forget something they're not currently dealing with.
But can you imagine how much less sick days we'd have if people who were ill actually were like, you know what, I've got a cold. I don't feel that bad, but I've got a cold and I'm sneezing everywhere and coughing everywhere. And I'm not going to go and spread it to my colleagues. Yeah. Do you think then that we'd actually have a lot less sick days in the long term? Because we've shown what happens when you lock down. Like the UK graph is like that, right? From when we locked down, it went up, it went straight down. It works, like, without a doubt, it works. So you know, the best thing, the most positive thing I feel that could come out of that going forward is, well, you know, if we are ill, why don't we think about like making sure that nobody's coming in, even if it's just a sniffle, and they don't feel that bad. Because like, what's it, like Idris Elba, he was like, he got the coronavirus and he was like, I'm okay, like, I've got it, but I don't actually feel that bad. Like, it's just like a bit of a rough cold. Whereas people are obviously dying on fucking hospital beds with the same thing. Yeah. So are we going to learn that actually this could fuck somebody up just because it doesn't fuck you up? It could really fuck somebody else up, and then start to be like, yeah, I'm not going to go in because I don't want to go and spread it to my colleagues. And that's the respected thing to do. But it's not. The respected thing to do is, you know, pull your socks up and get into work.
Yeah. I think even if we learn our lesson from this, it'll be short-lived. I think a lot of human lessons are short-lived. Yeah. You know, they say, like, if you don't know history, it's doomed to repeat itself, which is true. Yeah. But there's only so much you can know about history. Like, you can learn about a specific thing in history, but because you didn't live through it, you might be like, oh, well, this is different. Or like, I think if we do learn from this, it'll be short-lived. By the next generation, you know, we'll be back to normal. Or, I mean, I just don't see any long-lasting permanent change from this, and that sucks to say. And I could be wrong. I hope the fuck I'm wrong, but
I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right.
I think
I'd like to think
shows that I'm probably right.
Yeah, I'd like to think otherwise, but I think you are probably right. But the interesting thing could be with some, especially like I worked for Toyota in between going back to uni and leaving my supermarket job. I worked at the Toyota factory around the corner from where I live. So I worked for a Japanese like production line, basically. So, and it was just like, we had a guy who he'd not had a day off in 15 years, right, in the same team as me. And one day he came in and he looked fucking terrible. I mean, he didn't just look like he had even flu. He looked like he was fucking dying, and he was only like just turned 40 or something like that. Reasonably fit, you know, in good shape. He looked bad, like really bad. Like any normal person would say, you got to go home, my friend. You are not, like, why have you even turned up? But he carried on working, and then like he sort of said to the team lead, he was like, do you know what? I don't think I can carry on. And he hadn't had a day off in 15 years. They have their own occupational health center on site with their own doctors and their own nurses. He went there and they sent him back to do something light. There wasn't a light job in the factory. And he carried on. That night he went to hospital and he got pneumonia. Like,
wow.
And they sent the company occupational health center sent him back to work.
Yeah.
Because they're under pressure to make sure that we're not missing team members and that they are at work. They're put under pressure to do that. When he went to our National Health Service hospital, walked in, they were like, "You've got pneumonia." And he had to stay in hospital for like 3 days, and then he was off work. He was off work for like 6 weeks to recover. A fit young bloke. And I wonder now with some of the. That's why I hope maybe if this happens, it'd be with some of the bigger, more bigger companies, because.
Yeah,
with big strong unions and stuff like that, because we need to stop these things from spreading like they have like they have done. And even just like shitty colds, shitty coughs and colds, they still cost everything money. They cost the taxpayer money, they still cost the economy money, they cost us all money in the long run. So are we gonna learn? We'll see. Probably not.
We'll see. It's starting to feel like it's like a sin to be human, man. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, don't be sick. Don't be wrong.
Yeah, don't be wrong.
Don't
make sure your pictures
don't have bad feelings.
Make sure your pictures are perfect.
Yeah.
And make sure your teeth aren't perfect, get a brace. Like, your nose isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Your nose isn't perfect, get a nose job.
Yeah.
You've got a different body shape. We could sort that out. You want bigger glutes? We could fit you some ass in there, no worries. Like, it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like,
it is.
Your tits
There's so much pressure.
Your tits aren't perfect. We'll sort that out. Like, it's just completely mental. Like, completely mental.
Yeah. There's just a lot of pressure to be anything but human, to be better than human. There's so much pressure to be inhuman, non-human, some Superman, some Superwoman, whatever. And it just doesn't fucking work like that. And it's hard. And I do think that is only compounding all of these problems right now. And I think that's why Twitter blew up, because there's so much pressure and we're all at our breaking point. And then people are quarantined with nothing else to do except for explode, right? And it's just hard. It's just hard. I think we could all be a little more nicer and accepting that we're imperfect.
Right. That's a good point as well, because if everyone was at work and you get home from work and you work in like 9 to 5 days a week, and you sit down and you're tired, you probably don't want to be thinking about making a movement or like, there's still people that did, obviously, but like, you're probably just going to be like, do you know what? I'm just tired and I need to go back to work tomorrow to put food on the table. So I'm probably not going to engage in this. Whereas, like you say, you're locked down, you've got nothing else to do, and it's like, shit. Like, I've got this energy to do stuff that I wasn't able to do before, and time to put into things, and we're going to start a movement. Like, we're going to make this happen.
Yeah. Which is incredible, right? That can be incredible. We have this time to do these things that we need to do, and that is incredible. But I think there's so much pressure that instead of meeting each other with like understanding and kindness and education, there's so much pressure on us to be anything other than what we are, to just be perfect, that instead of coming off as like, okay, we have this time, let's solve this shit. This needs fixed. Like, this is fucked. Right. We come off as just attacking each other and hating each other and mauling each other. And that's rough. It's rough. It's a lot. And then it ends up in Twitter dumpster fires like we've witnessed. Which has been
people are nuts.
A ride.
I think we've covered a good broad set of topics today. I want to thank you, Nick, as well, about being so open and talking about your sexuality, because that's I mean, it shouldn't be like a very personal thing, but at the same time it is a very personal thing, and it should be up to you, and it's completely up to you. But you sharing your experience in that way will help people for sure. Hopefully. So we'll be back next week chewing the fat about something else. So behave yourselves, because you might just find yourself on the Nick and Joe podcast. I will see you next week. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.